This is the National Federation of the Blind Social Media 101, hashtag NFB22. President Rick Obono, thanks so much for joining. Any words of inspiration for getting on social media?
It's great to see so many people getting on here to help NFB22 be as social as possible. Of course, some of you may not be able to be with us in New Orleans, and we still want you to be part of the action. But if you're with us in New Orleans, we definitely want you to share out the great interactions that are happening, the powerful moments that happen during convention. The organized blind movement works because blind people commit to coming together, to sharing with each other, and to helping formulate a shared agenda based on our hopes and dreams, and turning that into action. And social media is one of the great tools that we have today for action. So I'm sitting here looking at the final pieces of the presidential report. One of the things that I call upon us to do is take on Congress in a new way, especially around the whole area of web accessibility. And I think our slamming members of Congress with social media about how they should once and for all answer the question about whether the internet is a place of public accommodations for blind people. 30 years, more than 30 years after the Americans with Disabilities Act, more than 30 years after the public launch of the World Wide Web. I think it's long overdue. And wouldn't it be great for us to use the social media tools on the web to help make that happen? So I'm glad that we're getting more people trained. And I would only say that, in the Federation, we use a each one teach one model. So once you learn, make sure to find someone else to teach. That's the best way to cement the learning. And then we'll have two people who are better connected compared to the one that we trained here today. So thank you for being here, and let's go build the Federation.
Thank you so much. That was a perfect introduction to what we're going to be talking about. So with that, and social media is such a great way to connect and really advocate and get your experiences and your stories out there, as well as engaging with each other. So we're really excited to build on that moving forward. So with that, going into, we're active, the National Federation of Blind is active on social media at the national level through our divisions, through our affiliates, our groups, and our committees, and we use it to interact on a lot of different focused topics, some that President Rick Obono has already mentioned, and we really want more federationists on social media. And so hopefully this is a start to your excitement and participation on the platforms that you choose. Just know that you don't have to choose both platforms. Choose one that you're comfortable with. So we'll be covering two that we have the most engagement on so far. And we're excited to go over some of the tips and tricks for navigating on the two platforms for Facebook and Twitter. But before we get into the demonstration and overview of the platforms, we did want to connect with members who are on social media within the movement. And so first we have tonight Liz Wise-Carver, who is chair of the Communications Committee of the National Federation of the Blind, is here to share her experience with social media and how valuable it is staying engaged and informed. So Liz, are you out there?
I am here. Thank you. And good evening, everyone. I'm really glad to be joining you tonight and super glad to see this training event for all of our membership to learn more about engaging in social media. I think social media is really a great equalizer. You don't have to be a journalist, and you don't have to be a professional, and you don't even have to spend any money to get onto social media and engage with thousands and thousands of people around the world and reach out to other blind people or people of influence to help share the message of the National Federation of the Blind. So I think social media and the internet in general are really inspiring in that way. So I am the current chair of the Communications Committee, and the Communications Committee is made up of members who help to work on social media and just share the message of the Federation through all sorts of communication methods. But the good news is you do not need to be on the communications committee to help share NFB messages and events and information online. You literally can just use your own personal social media accounts and follow some of the guidelines that our communications group is going to share this evening, and use some of the hashtags and engage other people and let them know what's going on. So a little bit about my social media experience. I've been on social media, I guess, since Facebook came out. I remember way back in the day when it was just for people who were in college. And Facebook and social media in general have really changed quite a lot over the years. Now you're able to share all sorts of pictures and links and polls and engaging things that can go viral, and be able to see even statistics about how many people have shared the things you've posted, or who's engaged with it, who's seen it. And depending on how tech savvy you are, you can even look at where these people are located and the types of folks who are engaging with your website or your content that you share on social media. I've been fortunate enough to learn a little bit about some of these things from using social media myself as someone who's interested in it. And then a bit professionally, I've helped people do things like prepare tweets or Facebook posts or write articles and manage their social media accounts. So that's been a really fun job and thing that I volunteer to do for the Federation as well. One thing that I would point out is most of these platforms are accessible, and a good way to keep up with what kinds of things make them more accessible is by being engaged with other blind people who are using social media. I try to keep up with technology, but I'm not always the most technologically advanced. But I have a lot of other friends who are smarter than me that have all the newest toys and gadgets. And so I can see what kinds of ways they are interacting with social media, you know, which apps are they using to be able to cross post between Twitter and Facebook, and how are they able to look at statistics when they post things, and how do they set up ads. And even if you don't do all that stuff, it's still great to have other blind folks around you who know more than you about technology, so you can keep up with what's going on. So why it's important to engage with social media? Well, as President Riccobono mentioned in his introduction, it's a way to share your message and get your information out there that you want people to know. We're able to do things like tweet at our senators and representatives when we're on the Hill during Washington's seminar, and we're able to tell them thank you in real time, and be able to show other folks that, hey, there's blind people going to Capitol Hill and they think these are important, and look, their, you know, representatives supported this. So you're able to share a lot of influence that way. You're able to reach out to other blind people or families and teachers of blind people that don't know anything about the Federation, and offer them some help or advice. I'm in a whole lot of different Facebook groups, technology groups, and information. And I mean, I think almost every day there's someone who comes on and says, you know, my child is blind, we're not getting services, I don't know what to do. Or someone comes on and says, you know, I've just gone blind, I don't know what kinds of work I can do, you know, what kind of technology do people use, how do they do things? And it's just because I'm on social media and I happen to see that post, I'm able to comment and say, hey, you might check out the National Federation of the Blind. So it's important to be able to reach out to other people and educate them on how blind people do things. Social media is a great tool to keep up with what is going on in the National Federation of the Blind and the world in general. So the National Federation of the Blind does a great job posting on social media, sharing links to things like the Braille Monitor, sharing blog posts, sharing inspirational quotes from past presidents and our current president, things that can engage people and maybe catch their attention. And you can help by sharing those and engaging with them, and just even by commenting. That'll actually put those posts higher up where Facebook algorithms will recognize it, and then more people are able to see it. But it's a way to keep your chapters engaged. You know, if you're a chapter president, you might have a Twitter or Facebook group where you're able to communicate with some of your members that way. Just to point out, I bet we're going to talk about this later tonight, but social media can help you engage your members as well. So let's say maybe you're not the most tech savvy, or maybe you're not the person that feels like you want to be posting all the social media. If you have somebody in your chapter who's real into that, ask them to help you. Ask them to be responsible for doing the tweets during your events, or sharing, the live streaming on your Facebook. That can really engage people and help them get involved and invested. Before I leave from, I'm not going to leave, I'm going to be here for the meeting, but before I turn over the virtual microphone, I did want to let you all know that the Communications Committee will be having a meeting at our national convention. It's going to be on Friday, July 8th from 7 to 9 p.m. in Studio 2. And we're going to talk about some of the different ways that you can use and engage with social media, but we're also going to talk about how do you reach out to folks who don't use social media or don't have computers. So we'll have a lot of interesting topics there that will kind of jump off of what we're discussing tonight. And again, you don't have to be a Communications Committee member to come to that meeting, and you don't have to be a Communications Committee member to help spread the word about the NFB and to help promote our message on social media. So I hope you guys will join us at the communications meeting, and thank you all for having me, and looking forward to seeing what other cool topics we talk about tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. That was a really great overview and really helpful on so many points. Great. So our next speaker tonight is another leader within the organization. Chris Walker is a very active member in the full federation, but he is from the National Federation of the Blind of Virginia. And so he is on both platforms, very active, and I know he is ready to support you all as you engage on these platforms. And so with that, Chris, if you will share a bit about your experience in engaging on social media.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for letting me be part of this session and sharing my social media experiences as a chapter president here in Virginia for the Winchester chapter. I know that when I joined my chapter, I wanted to do outreach and I wanted to be on social media. So I connected with the communications team to see how we could, we could utilize, the best way to communicate the message out from the National Center through our affiliates, through our chapters and divisions. I'm going to feed a little bit off of Liz of what she said, a lot of the things that she said we can also repeat and do within our chapters and divisions and groups. So I definitely follow the National Federation of the Blind. I share out the Nation's Blind podcast. I share out presidential release from Mr. Riccobono, President Riccobono, all the things that I just really try to share out to chapters across the country, everywhere and anywhere that anybody will see it. I know we do have a Facebook page and a Twitter page for our chapter. And so a lot of things I see on the national level, I share out on our page as well. And I tweet out a lot of hashtags. I follow a lot of you on Twitter. So it keeps us engaged in what's going on and what other activities and programming that we're all doing and being able to share out this information. And it's so important that we get more people active in doing social media, because that's the way that we can get out information and resources out to those who have not found the National Federation of the Blind. I know that I share out through our local groups where I live about the National Federation of the Blind, about our chapter. I feel that any way we can bring in new members and let them know that they can live the lives they want. And a lot of them don't understand a lot of things. There's a lot of stories that we all hear. We're all different places. And so social media has been a great way for me to really show and let people know that, we care and that, blindness is not going to hold us back. So yes, definitely encourage everybody to get on social media because you do meet a lot of people. And I'm definitely looking forward to hashtag NFB22 in New Orleans. We'll be there. And I hope a lot of you will also join us. If you're not going to be there, is on the virtual aspects of it. And like I said, just through social media and emails and all these mechanisms that we have, the tools that the communications team can provide to the chapters and affiliates across the country. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity, and let's go build the National Federation of the Blind.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. That was really great. All right. So next we have, in terms of engaging on social media, one of the things we do in addition to it is, of course, watch out for accessibility issues. I know it's already been mentioned that the platforms are fairly accessible. However, we know that bugs happen, as well as learning to navigate through some of the accessibility issues that may be there. So tonight we have Matt Hackard, one of our members of our CENA or Access Tech team here at the National Federation of the Blind, to talk about how we work with Twitter and Facebook to make sure they are inclusive and accessible. So Matt, are you there?
Hi, Stephanie. Can you hear me?
Yes, sound great.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Danielle and Stephanie for inviting me here. I'm really excited. This will be my 7th convention, so I'm kind of newer to conventions than some folks around here, but I'm really excited. Excited to be working in access technology with these powerful tools that we do have to make our voices heard. So a couple of points that I was asked to talk about, first of the, as Stephanie mentioned, was just what do we do when a bug is reported to us, or when we discover a bug? Although I have to say, more often than not, it's reported to us by other people. I think I'm kind of on the back end of that generational gap, that I haven't adopted social media as much as some people have, younger than myself. But still, I try to get out there and amplify the messages from at NFB Voice. But the first thing that we always try to do is see if we can replicate the problem. And so especially when our members report things to us, what's especially helpful is to get as much information as we can from you about exactly what you're using. So what is it on a desktop computer? Are you using JAWS? Are you using NVDA? Are you using Magnifier? Are you using VoiceOver? Is it a Mac computer? Which platform is it? Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or what have you? Is it what version or what browser are you using? Is it Chrome or Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, Chrome's browser, on a Chromebook maybe? So there's a lot of those kinds of variables that help us to identify exactly where the problem is, so that we can better try and replicate it and understand what the issue is. And if we can replicate the problem, if we can reproduce it, then of course the next step is to report that to the social media platform, be it Facebook or Twitter or whoever. That's usually the case. Sometimes it turns out the problem is based elsewhere, so we have to kind of make that determination. That's not always easy, but sometimes it turns out that an accessibility bug shows up in one of the clients that you might use. So there's, without getting into too much of the technical, but when you're on Windows, you can be on the website and access Twitter, but you can also use programs like TW Blue and Chicken Nugget, and I don't know, there's just a whole myriad of clients that you can use, which are standalone applications. But anyway, so how can someone report a bug is another good question. And of course, as I mentioned, a lot of bugs get reported to us. And it's actually pretty easy to do that. We can be reached, the Access Technology team at the national office can be reached by email, and that's access@nfb.org. And you can also reach us by phone. You can call the national office at 410-659-9314. And option 5, I believe, from the main menu will get you to the Access Technology team. And one of us will either answer, or if we're all engaged in things, it may go to our voicemail, but please leave us a message and a way to reach you so that we can get all of the information that you can provide us, and someone will try to call you back. We really try to get back to everybody within 72 business hours. So those are some ways that you can report bugs to us. In addition, though, what's really helpful for the companies themselves, like Twitter and Facebook, is for people to report errors directly to them. And both platforms have links on their websites to their accessibility teams. Twitter, I know offhand, has I think it's Twitter at Twitter A11Y. And for those of you not familiar, A11Y is a common abbreviation that you'll see on social media that stands for accessibility. Accessibility is an 11-letter word. Take my word for it. And A and Y are the first and last letters, so they cut it down to A11Y. But Twitter A11Y is is Twitter's handle for their own accessibility team. And so you can actually direct message that handle in Twitter and report bugs that way. What can be good about reporting directly to the company itself is if we have multiple people reporting the same bug, that's a good way to kind of bring it forefront in their attention. So in other words, the more people that are seeing this, they realize, oh, this might actually be a serious problem that we should look at fixing. So that's really, I think, the best way. But so those two options, contacting the companies directly and going through us. One of the things that we do is try to foster relationships with a lot of the big tech companies. And one thing that we are able to do is filter that information to the most relevant things that they need to know so that they can address the problem. And they know that if the NFB Access Technology team is coming to them, it's in a spirit of partnership, because we want those platforms to be the best that they can, not only for the selfish reasons of wanting blind people to use them, but for helping the companies themselves too. So, so about my experience on social media as a blind person, as I've said, I think I'm kind of the older side of that generational divide. I'm not as active on social media, but I do have a Facebook account. I do have a Twitter account, and I definitely use those to retweet messages that the NFB account tweets, as well as leaders in accessibility, leaders in some of the divisions and other parts of leadership of the organization. When I see them tweet about things that are important for blind people, I think it's really, great to show my support for that message, as well as, and we'll probably talk about this a little further, but as messages get retweeted, it really helps that the algorithms are more likely to catch those items and make that's how items trend, right? So people can see those more. But so definitely have gotten used to using the convention hashtag. So excited about hashtag NFB22, and really looking forward to seeing everybody who will be there in person in New Orleans in a couple weeks. Stephanie, I'll go ahead and turn things back over to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. Great. And I love how you didn't credit for being on social media a lot, but you threw a lot of great social media buzzwords there or terminology. So hopefully, folks, you'll learn a little bit more about those that we have. That's a trending, algorithm, handle, hashtags, all like social media terminology that you'll hopefully come away with knowing a little bit more about. So, Matt, you should give yourself more credit on the social media venture there. So great. Well, thank you so much to Liz, Chris, and Matt for sharing your experiences, as well as other great information on how we can engage on the platforms as Federationists. So now we're going to transition to the overview of both the platforms for Twitter and Facebook. So we'll give information about both. There's a little bit of differences that you'll want to learn about and make a decision on which one may be more comfortable for you. And we'll also have a small demo of each creating a post. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Danielle.
Hey, everybody. Stephanie, can you hear me?
Yes, sound great.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, welcome, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us. So looking forward to connecting with you at hashtag NFB22, whether you're going to be there in person or virtually. And there might be someone out there thinking, but Danielle, you guys keep saying this word hashtag. What even does that mean? No worries, we got you. We're going to explain this. So let's start out with Twitter. So the idea behind Twitter is to say what you're thinking very concisely within 280 characters or less. Not 280 words, as I frequently try to squish into tweets, 280 characters. So it's more a one sentence thought, or it's a call to action, write to your senators, check out the Braille monitor, that kind of thing. So that's the main way, or that's the way that you're going to post on Twitter. So if you want to tell a story, you may need about 76 tweets to do that. But if you have something concise and quick to say, Twitter is where you want to do that. So a couple of vocabulary words that we're going to learn. So a follower, you may have heard the term like, oh, that's my friend on social media. So a follower on Twitter is equivalent to a friend on Facebook, if you will. So they follow you on on Twitter, and they see all of the tweets that you put out on your home feed. And your home feed is going to be where all of your tweets show up. And you can follow people back, and then on your home feed will be populated with their tweets. So it can be things like McDonald's, or like my friend Karen Anderson. If I follow her and I want to see the tweets that she's putting out there, I'm going to go ahead and follow her on Twitter. She's going to follow me back, and we'll see what each other's doing. So to retweet, sometimes you'll see it abbreviated as RT. And so that's just to share what someone tweeted. So let's say that Stephanie Cascone tweets a quote that I really like. So I can retweet that quote, and that's showing support. Like, yes, I like this, I agree with it, I'm going to share it. And then, as Matt mentioned, the algorithm, which is all those behind the scenes formulas that are on social media that they present the content to you that you most engage with. So if I engage with yarn, I'm a crocheter. So if I like yarn content and I'm constantly retweeting or sharing it, then my algorithm's going to say, she likes yarn, let's go ahead and show her more of that. And so it will show me more content from people who I might not follow as an option to say, hey, we noticed you like yarn, they talk about yarn, why don't you connect with them? And then that's how your circle grows on Twitter. Now, hashtag is the pound symbol. If you're on a computer keyboard, it's going to be that shift 3. And so you would put that in front of a phrase, for example, NFB22, and then that hashtag creates a sort of, it's a grouping of content. So on Twitter, it's a grouping of tweets that all use that same hashtag. So they're grouped together. You can search in the hashtag. And then on Twitter, there are filters you can search through, like most popular, latest, and that kind of thing. So you'll see, let's say President Riccobono tweets a welcome to hashtag NFB22, and he gets 100 people to engage with it. So that's going to be one of the most popular tweets about hashtag NFB22. So you'll see it when you search for that hashtag. So you wouldn't put a space between the hashtag and the N in NFB22. It's all smashed together. We also don't want to use punctuation within a hashtag because it will break the formula behind the hashtag, and then it won't work. So just a couple of things to be mindful of. All right, so alt text for images. This is super important because it's allowing for people who, for blind people to be able to interact with pictures on Twitter and actually on all social media platforms, but right now we're talking about Twitter. So when you're composing a tweet that includes an image, make sure that you add alt text. So alt text is also known as a description. So if I have a picture of a blanket that I'm crocheting, I'm going to put up a picture, and then right within the Twitter composer, there is an option to add alt text to my image. So then I'm going to describe that image. All right, so if you're using the Twitter app on your iPhone or Android, it is pretty accessible. Things like TW Blue and Chicken Nugget are good if they're maintained and they're okay third-party options, but we definitely are continuing to push for the platforms themselves to become accessible and to continue to develop in an accessible way as the platforms grow in their functionality. So Stephanie, if you could please play, we're just going to play a description of how it would sound using, I use an iPhone with VoiceOver. We're just going to show you what it sounds like to create a tweet.
Selected. Home tab. Search and Explore tab. Spaces tab. Notifications tab. Messages tab. One new item. Compose tweet. Button. Actions available. What's happening? What's happening? Text field. Is editing. Character mode. Insertion point at start. Tango. Numbers. Hyphen. Cap T. Letters. Tango. Shift. Numbers. 2. Minus 2. Whiskey. Echo. Q. Sierra. Weeks. Tango. In. Lima. Tail. Shift. Numbers. At. Number sign. Shift. November. Shift. Golf. Foxtrot. Shift. Bravo. 2. 2. Exclamation. Hashtag. Space. Uniform. India. Capital I. Charlie. Alpha. No. Tango. Can't. Whisk. Alpha. India. Tango. Numbers. X. Wait. Space. T2 weeks till hashtag NFB22. I can't wait. Danielle. At hey. Tweet. Button. Tweet. Twitter notification. Your tweet was sent.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. So that's just a very quick overview of what it would sound like to create a tweet using the iPhone app. And so then that way there in the tweet, I said T minus 2 weeks until hashtag NFB22. I can't wait. And so now, because I use the hashtag, others are going to be able to see my tweet and they're going to be able to engage with it, whether it's to like the tweet, meaning you're giving it a thumbs up, you like it, sharing it by retweeting, or replying to my tweet, which is just adding your comment saying, hey, I can't wait either, or something like that. So now we're going to go ahead and move over to Facebook. So Facebook is arguably the most popular platform on social media. There is no character limit for posting what's on your mind. So you can customize posts with things like your location and how you're feeling. Now, as I mentioned before, on Twitter, you have followers. On Facebook, you have friends. So when you friend someone, you're going to be able to keep up with what they're posting. In addition, you can join groups on Facebook, and they're related to things that you're interested in. You can also follow what's called a page. Now we have a page. So if you were to search on Facebook, it's National Federation of the Blind. And so our Facebook page, it's an outward facing page companies and organizations use pages because they're open. So where a group can have privacy settings where you have to, let's say you have to answer questions to join the group, or there might be some screening questions to make sure that they want you in their group. Pages are public, so anyone can follow the page, anyone can interact with what goes out on the page. So again, our name on Facebook is National Federation of the Blind. And then also a lot of our affiliates, a majority of our affiliates, our divisions, some of our groups all have pages as well. So definitely check them out as well, so you can see what's going on in some of your other affiliates. You might get some good ideas for content. You might get some thoughts on, fundraising ideas, that kind of thing. And then you're building community with fellow Federationists. So now on Facebook, when you're scrolling through what's called your newsfeed, so your newsfeed is your home page. So when you scroll through there, the accounts that you friend and follow, so if you have friends on your Facebook, and then the pages that you follow, and then the groups that you follow, it's all going to be presented to you on your home page. And so from there, you can do things, again, like the post, meaning visually the sign for liking is just giving it a thumbs up. Then there's also other reactions that you can scroll through and choose from. So if you love it, you can laugh at it, you can care about it, things like that. I think you can be angry at it, you can be sad at it as well. So there are far more options on Facebook to interact in a more customized way. Whereas Twitter just gives you the like option, the reply option, and the retweet option. So it's a little bit more robust, but there you can get very detailed. If you're using an iOS or Android phone, you should download the Facebook app. If you're using the Facebook on a computer, it would be facebook.com. Alternatively, you can use the website as in mobile.facebook.com, and that gives you a lighter experience. And so there are fewer options to be as interactive on there with the mobile site as you would get with the full site. But there are easier screens to navigate through, and then more obvious options on the m.facebook.com. But again, we're pushing for those platforms to be accessible as they evolve. So one feature that Facebook has is called Facebook Live, and it's where you can go live. For example, we did a live video when Dan Parker broke the Guinness World Record back in March. And so we went live on Facebook. We were broadcasting kind of like how on the news you would have breaking news and they interrupt your favorite TV show to show you something that's happening in your community. It's like that, but it's on Facebook. And so there might be times during the convention where we will go live, and you will be able to watch and comment in real time. So for example, if we go live and we go live during opening ceremonies at convention and you want to say, hi, everyone, I'm watching from Wyoming, you're able to comment that and interact with others that are watching that live video. So it's another cool way to connect with each other, even if you're not in person. We'll definitely keep you posted on the times when we expect to go live as often as we can, so that if you're not able to join us in person, or even if you're there in person and you're hanging out in your room or you're not in the event space where we're broadcasting from, you'll have that heads up. So if you want to go ahead and follow us on Facebook, we are National Federation of the Blind. And we also have a demo of posting on Facebook. So Stephanie, if you could please play the demo.
Facebook, heading, search, button, messenger, but profile picture, create post, button. Choose privacy, friends, button. Choose privacy, friends, add post to album, button. Cross postings, what's on your mind? A black screen with white text, possible text, what's on your mind? Photo/video, button. What's on your mind? A black screen with white text, possible text field, is editing, what's on your mind? Insertion point at start. India. Cap I, Vic, delete V, Charlie, Alpha, November, Tango, can't, whisk, unit 4, delete U, in, Tango, wait, Tango, 2, Rock, Romeo, B, in, ship, November, Echo, whiskey, new, Oscar, Tango, Romeo, Lee, Echo, Alpha, November, Sierra, Orleans, Foxtrot, Tango, Romeo, 4, right brace, number sign, letter, November, Foxtrot. Ship. Bravo. No. 2. 2. Hashtag NFB22. Fewer than one. Hashtag NFB22. Fewer than one. Danielle McCann. Choose privacy. Friends. Add post to album. Cross-posting setting. Text field. Is editing. I can't wait to be in New Orleans for hashtag NFB22. Character mode. Insertion point at end. Hide all background options. Selected. Background options. No back. Show all background options. Photo/video. Tag people. Button. Feeling/activity. Button. Happy. Button. Loved. Button. Fantastic. Excited. Button. Excited. I can't wait to be in New Orleans for hashtag NFB22. Hide all background options. Button. I can't. Cross-posting. Add post now. Choose private. Excited. Link. Danielle McCann is post. Button. Screen create post. Facebook. Heading. Screen recording in progress.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie. All right, so we have a few questions that were submitted to us in advance, but if you have questions for us, Karen Anderson is actually monitoring the chat. So if you would like to put your questions in the chat, we'll try to get to as many as possible tonight. And then also, if you're not able to use the chat, you can go ahead and raise your hand and then we'll take questions. So I'll just give you a minute to go ahead and think about some questions, and I'll start with one that we received earlier today. So someone did send an email and asked, what happens if I create a Twitter account and I'm not able to get back in because Twitter's saying that my username isn't correct? So there are a few different things that you could do there. You could use your email address to sign in. You could search for emails in your inbox from the first few that Twitter sent you, because in order to create an account, you would have had to create a username. So maybe you'd be able to find it there. And worst comes to worst, and it's not the ideal option, but you would just have to create a whole new account using a different email address. So thank you to the person who submitted that question. And then Karen, are we seeing any?
We do have one hand raised, Sharia. Let me go ahead and unmute you. You should have a request to unmute.
Hello, everyone. One
Hey,
question.
Sharia.
Hello. Great presentation so far. One question I do have is with Facebook, it says cross postings. So I never knew what that meant. And I was like, I don't want to do anything wrong. So let me just find out what this means.
Yeah, that's a great question. So cross-posting, so for example, for me, I also have an Instagram account. And so when it's asking me if I want to cross-post it, it's asking if I want to also post it to my Instagram account. So that's what it means. So if you have other social media accounts linked to your Facebook account, it shows you that option to say like, hey, do you want to put this out somewhere else? So that's what that means. And just a side note to that, you can control all sorts of privacy settings, like if you want your other accounts linked or not, in the settings menu on Facebook. It's a very long, very detailed menu, and so you can find all those settings there. So thank you for your question, Sharia.
We have a question from John. John, you should have a request to unmute. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So what groups are you posting in on Facebook? I mean, that, you didn't seem to mention that during the
Fire tablet has left the meeting.
During the your demo. I was wondering what groups were you in?
Oh yeah, so sorry about that. So that's a good question. So I was just posting on my timeline. So I wasn't posting in a group per se, but from our account, from the National Federation of the Blind account, we post just to our page. So everything is visible. It's not within any particular groups. It's just done on our public page. So I hope that clears it up.
Next question from Kristen. You should have a request to unmute.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Good now? All
Yep,
right.
yep.
Okay. So my question is about Facebook and the business page type thing. If you know anything about that, I'm an artist and I would love to be able to put my wares out there, so to speak, and reach, a lot of the blind community. but I wasn't sure if there's a separate way to do that other than your regular social page. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So that's a very, very good question. And so there are a few different ways that you would be able to post your art page. If you wanted to create a business page, probably the easiest way to go ahead and do that is to create your business page on Facebook and then toggle between posting to your page as a business and your personal Facebook newsfeed. There are third-party social media management softwares that you would be able to use. They're not the most accessible platforms, but if it's something that you want to research, you would just have to Google things like social media post manager or social media page manager, and you'd get tons and tons of results. But yeah, the easiest way would just be to create that business page and then toggle when you want to post to your page, and then when you want to post to your personal account, post to your personal account. So thank you.
Awesome, thanks. The next question is from Tina. And let me need to get a unmute request to you, Tina. Hang on just one moment. There you go.
Thank you. This is actually a really good, this has been a good seminar. Now, is this going to be available if somebody came in late or whatever? Is this going to be available on the website for viewing or listening to later?
Yeah, hey Tina, thanks for joining us. So we definitely would be able to we are recording the seminar, so we will definitely be able to make it available in the future.
Yeah, that's great, because there was some good information tonight, and your demos really shed some light on. And by the way, just as a tip for anybody that is doing any kinds of posting on Facebook, and if you're going to be doing long typing, I think that a Bluetooth keyboard is a good tool to have on hand, because if you're really wanting to type accurately, a Bluetooth keyboard is a good tool to have on hand.
That's a great point, Tina. Thanks so much.
I'd share that tip. I just thought I'd share that tip, because if you're trying to type on a small screen and a keyboard, it can be awkward.
Yeah, it definitely can. We're going to go ahead and answer a couple more questions. We have lots more.
Thank
you. We do have one in the chat. He's wondering, this is Elijah from Florida, and he's wondering, what are some tips to make Twitter more accessible? Elijah is a newcomer to Twitter.
Awesome, thanks for the question, Elijah. Welcome to Twitter. So as Matt mentioned earlier, the best way to if you're encountering accessibility issues with Twitter, the best way to address those is to definitely let our Access Tech team know, and then also let Twitter know. So if you tweet at that handle at Twitter A11Y, just to let them know. Now, as far as if you're having maybe a little bit of trouble getting used to the platform, you can also give us a call for tips. And then if you know other blind people in your area, certainly ask them if they use Twitter and how they navigate with it. So thank you again for the question.
Awesome. We have a question from Julie. Julie, you should have a request to unmute.
Yes, I am here.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I tried to use Twitter several years ago. I've not tried it with an iPhone or anything like that, but several years ago, a friend of mine wanted me to try it, and so I did. And she followed me, or I followed her, and I could see her messages, but I couldn't figure out how to send messages to her. Can you send private messages, or you put something on Twitter and it's just out there, and if people want to follow you, they do?
So thank you. Good question. So both. The answer to your question is both. So when you put things out on Twitter, when it says compose a tweet, you're composing it for everyone to see, unless your account is private. If your account is private, then only the people who request for you to follow you, will be able to see your posts. There is a tab, particularly on the Twitter app. There's also a link for it on the website. That's called direct messages. If you go into the direct messages area, then you're able to send private messages to people who have messaged you or who you would like to message. The only caveat to that is if they're not accepting messages, like if they don't want to, if you have to request to message them and they don't write you back, that's the only thing that would prevent you from messaging them. So thank you.
Great question. Next question is from Erica.
Hi there. I wanted to ask if y'all could discuss a little bit the importance of engaging and not always necessarily liking or hearting, just because I know y'all mentioned the algorithm.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. So engagement means liking the post, like you had mentioned, but also commenting on it, meaning starting a conversation about the post in the comments field, typically found below the post. And so the more conversation that happens under a post, the more people the algorithm says, oh, this conversation is hopping, let's go ahead and show it to more people. So it really expands the reach of what is posted. Kieran, do you have anything to add to this one? You engage a lot on social media, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the important thing to remember is that the goal of social media is to be social. And being social is more than just like smiling and waving at somebody on the street. It's engaging with them. It's talking with them. It's finding out why they're talking about what they're talking about in a conversation. And so that's what the algorithm is looking for. So the more you actually engage by talking, by asking or answering questions, the more likely that post is to be shown in your algorithm. And so engaging, especially on our various pages and channels, helps us get more reach.
Thanks,
That's a really, really great question, Erica.
Yep.
We have a question from Elira.
Hi guys, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Great.
So I had a question about the hashtag NFB22. So when I noticed that when you, Danielle, had been making your voiceover demonstration, you had posted your privacy settings were set to friends. So I wonder if you post something that says, can't wait for hashtag NFB22 and your privacy settings were set to friends, would your post show up if I were to follow the hashtag NFB22 on Facebook?
That is a really, really good question. And actually, I'm glad you caught that because I need to go change my settings to public because that is because my privacy settings were set to friends. Only my friends will be able to see that post, even if I use the hashtag. And then on Twitter, if you were to tweet something and your account is private and you use the hashtag, it's not going to show up under the main conversation. So that's an excellent question. Thank you for catching that.
Very nice. We have one more question. Do we have time for it?
Yeah, we have time. While you're getting that person queued up, is it a?
It is a 13478.
Got it. While you're sending that unmute request, I just wanted to say that we have a lot of questions too that we got from the email, so we'll do our best to answer them. And thank everyone if we didn't get to your question.
You should have an unmute request, friend.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Hope. I have a question. Yes. So I'm going to be heading, obviously, in person to, well, you didn't know that, but heading to New Orleans for the convention. I wanted to know what's the best way to to just, the best way to communicate with like JetBlue, since I'm flying down on JetBlue and everything's been going on with, the airlines and all that sort of stuff. So what is the best way to communicate with airlines just in case it's canceled or a delay or something like that? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, hopefully your flight and nobody's flights get canceled and it's smooth travel for everyone. But if that happens, you can certainly reach out to them on social media. I've seen in most instances when you do reach out to them on social media, they direct you to their customer service lines anyway. So it's probably more streamlined to go ahead and just reach out via their customer service, whether it's the reservations desk or, if your flight gets canceled, they might even send you an email that says, give us a call at this number or send us an email at this address to go ahead and reschedule. But certainly feel free to reach out to them on social media too. Just if you need to get their attention through a different way as well. So that's a good question. I do that sometimes too. So very good question.
Danielle, the other thing that I've seen a lot of airlines request is to download their app. I can't speak to the accessibility of JetBlue. I'm a Southwest girl myself, but I know a lot of airlines, especially with the shortages of staff, are requesting and suggesting that people download their apps. So that might be another thing to give a shot to.
Yeah, I'm a Southwest girl myself too. Love it.
And Southwest does engage on social.
They really do. Yep.
They do a great job. That is all the questions we have in the chat and with hands raised right now, Danielle. It looks like perfect timing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karen, for doing that, for moderating. All right. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you again for joining us tonight. And I did want to mention too, if you have questions, if you need maybe a little bit more information or want to do some one-on-one Q&As with me, I am going to go ahead and have some office hours next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Eastern. The way to go ahead and make that appointment, they're going to be 15-minute increments. The way to go ahead and schedule a meeting would be to either email me. So it's dmccann@nfb.org. That's D as in Delta, M as in Mike, CCANN@nfb.org. Or you can give me a call at 410-659-9314, extension 2246. So I'm happy to talk with you. We'll go ahead and hopefully connect with you during those times. And if not, we'll see you on social media, whether you're in person at convention or you're joining us virtually. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Danielle. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Karen. Thank you so much for hosting. And thanks to our speakers tonight. This has been a really great night as we anticipate National Convention in 2 weeks. So have a great night, everyone.